Thank you all for your warm wishes. Turns out the Southern Allergies was actually a head cold, so a bit under the weather still. So keep pushing videos out there. So yeah, welcome back to Views with Hughes, your Jennifer News. This is Jerome Hughes. Now let's go ahead and just go ahead and get right into it. Now it looks like Disney, like Leslye Headland's push for the second season of the Acolyte is basically not getting anywhere. Okay, so we had the latest buzz saying that the Acolyte season 2 is on hold indefinitely. But before we dive into that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification so that way you be stay updated with all of the future videos. Okay, so basically this latest rumor is coming from WDW Pro on YouTube, good friend as well as friendly co-host. And WDW Pro said that he has a source who was spot on about Lucasfilm stuff before. And WDW Pro also was right about, the whole Rey movie before it was announced and Daisy Ridley showed up at the Star Wars celebration. Now, the source from WDW Pro nailed those predictions. Now, the same source from WDW Pro is saying that season 2 of the Acolyte is definitely on hold. Okay, now the source from WDW Pro does have a solid track record, as I've mentioned before, where he's accurate, and so there's a good chance that it's all legit. And it seems like Leslye Headland and her efforts to get that second season aren't really paying off. And let's see how this plays out. But now things don't look too promising for Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy. You see, Leslye Headland, Leslye Headland doesn't have a contract for a second season at the moment, but according to the source from WW Pro, this decision was likely made weeks before the season 1 finale, probably based on the viewership numbers. Now, essentially, Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm decided not to move forward with a second season of Disney's Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy, okay? But this isn't necessarily set in stone because y'all know Kathleen Kennedy, who's in charge, could decide to greenlight a second season as long as she still has her contract, which is good until October this year. There's also a chance it could get extended past that, so she could make a call for a second season anytime before or after her contract is up. But for right now, there's no plans, no movements, or nothing happening for a second season so far for the Acolyte. Now, this particular source from WDW Pro also pointed out that everything in season 1 seemed to be gearing up for a second season, especially with how it ended. Now, it looked like they were planning to go ahead and continue with the story, but things stand now, the way things are standing right now, any plans for season 2 are on an indefinite hold, as they say. And I think this rumor from WDW Pro holds a lot of weight because Leslye Headland has been pretty clear that a second season of Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy hasn't been given a go-ahead yet. But just recently, Leslye Headland was pleading with people to start a social media campaign to push for a second season. Now, in one of her latest interviews with Collider, they asked Leslye Headland, what do fans need to do to make sure we get a season 2? And Leslye Headland responded by saying, truly, any online support and love you can send the show would be super helpful. It's a bit tricky because of how the internet works, but if you enjoy the show and want to see more of the story, any support on social media platforms would be really helpful. Excuse me. So it's pretty obvious Leslye Headland was begging for support during this Collider interview to secure a second season. And Leslye Headland went on to say, sending love to the cast too. You've been what Hayden Christensen went through. He's getting love now, but give it now if you enjoyed the performances, even if you were kind of whatever on the show, if you like the performances, get on their social media and let them know you love them or support them for or thought the performances were great. Now, Leslye Headland kept saying, encourage your friends to watch the show. A lot of my work has spread by word of mouth. We were talking about the review bombing, so just tell people not to pay attention to the IMDb score. So it's clear that Leslye Headland was asking people to support the Acolyte by on the Kathleen Kennedy and cast online to ignore the negative reviews and spread the word about the show to help it get a second season of Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy. Now, Leslye Headland is saying that we should ignore the negative word of mouth about Disney Star Wars The Acolyte and only focus on the positive. But, excuse me, that's a double standard, isn't it? Now, Leslye Headland is basically telling us that not to pay attention to the bad news and the scores that are basically saying Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy is awful, while insisting only the positive feedback matters. Now, if you enjoyed it, sure, tell people, but it feels like nowadays, if you actually like the Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy, you're really going to post about it online, okay? And it's that's just not true. You know, social media is full of people sharing their likes and dislikes, and Leslye Headland's argument just plain doesn't even add up at all. And Colada said to just watch the Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy and move on. Okay, Leslye Headland echoed that sentiment, saying you should watch it, maybe mention it casually over dinner, but don't make a big deal of it online. If you liked it, be appreciative. I call nonsense on that too, but people are way more likely to talk about Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy. They enjoy it online, not just at the dinner table, unless it's something like Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy, which is clearly not getting much love, if you ask me. But I'm saying it myself, and even without being active online, like I've been getting tweets, fan arts, and comments that she said that people genuinely are enjoying, but which is great. But if you're not voicing your support, I encourage you to do so. Now, Leslye Headland said that, and Leslye Headland has previously said she's unsure about a second season, and it seems like Leslye Headland is just guessing about, potential talks. All right. But Leslye Headland has also mentioned that, a first season should be strong enough to stand on its own without relying on a second season, which Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy clearly didn't do. Now, many of us are actually left wondering, what's the point of Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy was, besides just basically degrading the Jedi, making the Sith the good guys and everything. And it feels like Leslye Headland's main goal was to paint the Jedi in a negative light, throwing in just enough intrigue to, basically make sure wish for a second season, but nothing compelling enough to actually want to see. Now, Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy has nothing to do to make me curious about a follow-up. But according to the Nielsen data and everything, the Nielsen data shows that viewership has been in a steep decline from the start. As I've reported before, the premiere got a 444 million minutes watched, but fell to 370 million minutes in the second week. In the third week, Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy wasn't even in the top 10 anymore. And it was just basically being overshadowed by the shows like, King of Collectibles, Golden Touch, which had less than, 300 million minutes watched by the fourth episode. And Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy could have had fewer than, 222 million minutes watched. Even getting beaten by, other shows, but could end up like being a write-off like Willow, which Disney pulled off the platform and didn't even renew despite its high-profile backing. And I doubt that Bob Iger and Disney will even do that with Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy because of its Star Wars affiliation. Now, that would send a terrible message to investors and highlight just how badly Star Wars is performing. And plus, it just confirms that the viewers aren't buying the whole woke agenda that Leslye Headland pushes. And Bob Iger and Disney will probably just keep it up just to save face, okay? So even with the latest Nielsen data, it shows that Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy didn't even make an impression, even with the big lightsaber fight in the fifth episode. And it's also clear that Disney Star Wars The Acolyte by Leslye Headland under Kathleen Kennedy is struggling. And the rumor that a second season might be put on indefinite hold seems more likely with all the data pointing to The Acolyte being a flop. But what do you think about the chance of a second season ever happening? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you might have this particular topic. What do you think about the Acolyte? Do you think that Leslye Headland deserves a second season? Do you think that, that it's gonna be like a big another nothing burger where Kathleen Kennedy is actually going to get another contract when her contract ends in October? and we're going to get a second season of the Acolyte. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you may have on this particular topic. If you enjoyed what I shared in this video, go ahead, smash like, man, share far wide across social media. And if you haven't done so already, and you enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click bell notifications so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.